Welcome at our DPW 2022 conference in Amsterdam, and we are sitting here in the VIP area. And I'm not alone. I'm sitting here with Julie and Alpar, and you are both from WNS Denali, I should say. So, what is WNS Denali doing? What are you up to?
Well, we are a managed services provider in the procurement and supply chain space. We provide support services in those areas, in addition to advisory services and digital solutions across the source-to-pay workstream. And what that does is we enable and support an organization's procurement journey and their maturity.
All right, very clear. So talk to us about the procurement ecosystem, because that has changed in the last 3 years. So how does that relate to digital in transformation these days?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, let me explain the ecosystem approach to procurement, because procurement is a function that sits in the middle of everything. It's a very multifaceted function because it has to work with a lot of different stakeholders. So when we define the ecosystem, let's talk about the players of that ecosystem. So you have suppliers, obviously. Procurement's key role is to be able to identify, select, and work with suppliers and bring that expertise and talent into the company. So from that perspective, they are a key stakeholder of the ecosystem. You have the actual budget holders, the functional leaders of the organization who are actually making decisions. Yeah, it could be finance, it could be marketing, it could be facilities, it could be engineering, R&D, it could be production. So depending on the company, you have these different budget holders, stakeholders who are the end users working with those suppliers. Then you have, legal, because they are in charge of obviously putting contracts in place. You have finance, who's actually making the monetary decisions of the company. And you have the entire procurement organization with category managers, buyers, contract managers, etc. So there are really a number of players of the ecosystem. And when we talk about solutioning or making procurement better, we have to address the entire ecosystem. So how it relates to digital, actually, you have to think about how do we connect the dots of these different stakeholders, because what's happening at the supplier, the data that's being produced, or the information that's coming from there, making sure that flows through to the procurement organization for decision making. The day-to-day interactions between the end users and the suppliers, that data needs to be fed back to procurement so that they're taking decisions from a performance management perspective and evaluating how does this supplier compare to another supplier. So there's a lot of data being produced by these different stakeholders of the ecosystem, and that data needs to flow and needs to be available for better insights, for better decision making, to create more value for the organization. So I think anything as it relates to digital needs to address and think about the ecosystem as a whole and making it more interactive. So that's what we mean by that.
Yeah, but has this ecosystem become more complex in the last years because of global changes, or?
Absolutely,
yeah?
Absolutely. I think there are a number of pressures. Procurement as a function all of a sudden got elevated because of the need to, as you know, there's a big supply chain crisis going on in the world right now due to coming out of the pandemic, a huge demand that's being created, and companies are not able to meet as a supply. So procurement is now more than ever being called to the task to identify new sources of supply, identify the risks that the supply chain has, which is also getting more complex because you're having to go further out into different regions, different countries, and then added with the geopolitical risk that's surrounding it, companies have to do a lot more. And then also one of the other problems that we face is the global warming brought a lot of scrutiny around what is the corporate's role in that play, and procurement is in charge of the ESG, the corporate's action around sustainability and governing that. So that also brought the need to have access to a much broader data set and information, and being able to go through and make decisions of which suppliers are more eco-friendly and doing things that will then reflect on the company's responsibility and reputation to their customers. So every day the complexity of the ecosystem is growing, therefore the solutions that are being brought needs to address that.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
I understand. So what are some of the best practices then you bring across your client base related to this digital transformation?
Yeah, so first of all, you have to have a vision. And there's quite a misnomer out there amongst organizations oftentimes that if you implement digital tools, then that gives them the digital strategy, and that's not true. Implementing digital tools and having the tools does not define a digital strategy. So with that, we work with our clients to be able to define the vision, define the strategy, which of course helps identify the pain points in the organization. And where there are pain points, then that defines business requirements, of which the tools can help drive that. But it's so much more than that, because as a part of a strategy, obviously it's not just selecting the right tools, it's defining the change management, what needs to happen. And then, as Alpar was saying, from an ecosystem standpoint, the whole ecosystem represents your processes, your people, your data sets. Well, again, those have to be in place and efficient so that the tools that you implement will mirror that and drive even further efficiency. And so it's the thinking, it's the approach, it's the connection to the ecosystem, making sure that all of that, as he said, flows in a very optimized way, and be able to make sure that we're driving the right strategic thinking with our clients as well, to be able to continue to drive their transformation.
Yeah, I think defining the problem is important. And when you look at, again, going back to the ecosystem, what are the constraints, what are the bottlenecks that make the ecosystem less robust? And then coming out with digital solutions that would address and eliminate those constraints, those challenges, versus just adopting a platform or a solution without understanding what the real problem is, I think is important.
It's important. And can AI be of any help? I think you should use AI nowadays. So can you give a sneak peek into the future of AI?
Yeah, AI is broadly used. There's different applications. You have to, again, go back to the problem that you're trying to solve. So one of the ways that we at WNS Denali have been working on for the last 5 years or so is to make category management, which is the most strategic part of procurement, is the planning and it's strategizing around what your category strategies are. So to elaborate more on that, if I'm a category manager for our logistics category, for example, for our company's logistics category, and we have a requirement of moving goods around the world to make sure that our supply chain works. And if I'm a category manager for that, I have responsibility to make sure I identify the best suppliers, understand what's going on in the market, understand my stakeholders' requirements, and how that's changing, how our customers demand is changing, and to be able to put solutions in place to be able to manage not only the cost of our logistics, but also the performance of our logistics, right? So we've been thinking along the lines of how can AI and digital make this category manager more effective in his or job, on a day-to-day basis. And one of the elements of that is there's so much data, and it takes a lot of time to go through the data and make sense of it and make decisions from it. So we built a product called Insight Track, which sifts through lots of data, whether it's supplier performance data, whether it's contract data, whether it's spend data, and pulls out insights and make recommendations for the category manager to look and understand, so that her or his decisions are improved and in a more timely manner. Another one is intelligence, market intelligence. Again, you have to marry what's going on inside the company with the external market conditions, availability of routes, availability of vessels, and the pricing, the oil prices, etc. So all of those things, fed to the category manager in a timely manner, in a dynamic way, or any type of risk that involves the regions that they operate, etc. So that information gets married and provided, for more effective decision making. Now, could AI take some of those decisions automatically without the human intelligence? Eventually, I think some of the decisions will be taken, but there's so much business acumen that a person has and needs to apply judgment to, which the current technology is not there. The availability of data to be able to build that acumen is not there. So of course, I think the boundary is always going to be a combination of AI and human intelligence, and that can continue to weigh in towards more AI, but there's always going to be a component of a human intelligence. But it's okay. I think that AI makes human more effective, more productive, smarter, and more efficient in how they do their work every day. So I think that's kind of the direction.
Yeah. Well, we can't look into the future, but I hope to see you in the future and see how WNS is challenging this AI. So thank you so much for being here. And,
thank you very much for having us.
Yeah. Yes, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.
Yes,
thank you.
You're welcome.